Welcome back to today's 1960s hair and makeup tutorial inspired by the great new film called The Last Letter from Your Lover, which is in cinemas from the 6th of August, and this is in collaboration with Studiocanal. I'm starting with the IT Cosmetics Your Skin But Better CC Foundation. I'm replicating a look from one of the scenes of Jennifer Stirling, which is one of the principal characters based in the 1960s. And she's played by the wonderful Shailene Woodley. And this look takes more of a spin on the Brigitte Bardot makeup rather than the Twiggy style. As this is based on everyday makeup, the skin is a lot more natural than what we would have seen in photographs. So I'm using a product that does cover the skin but still enables you to see freckles. This 1960s makeup is what I would refer to as real 1960s makeup. It's what the real women wore at the time rather than what you saw on the catwalks and within the fashion industry. One thing I did notice was that the concealer under the eyes was quite bright compared to the rest of the skin. It almost looked like there wasn't much on the skin, but you could see concealer under the eyes. So I'm just going to add a little bit of brightness on the inner corners. I'm using the Too Faced Born This Way concealer. Although it is full coverage, I'm using a tiny amount, but it does give a beautiful brightening effect. And then I'm going to use what's left on the bristles to pull that down underneath the eye to add a subtle brightness. Now we have evened out the skin tone and brightened ever so slightly underneath the eyes, we now need to mattify the skin. Matte skin was all the rage in the 1960s. So I'm going in with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Powder in the shade Fair 1, and I'm just pressing that onto the skin with a sponge. So if you don't know, The Last Letter from Your Lover is based on a novel by Jojo Moyes, and it is fantastic. I watched it yesterday and I instantly texted my sister and said we need to go see this when it comes out in the cinema. It's one of those movies I could have just reset straight away and watched it all again. It's based on a journey that entangles two women's lives, one based in the 1960s and one based in the here and now. I loved all of the makeup and the outfits of Shailene's character. It was just so glamorous. And the story of Jennifer and her life has you captivated, and then when you come back to the here and now and Ellie's life, it's kind of got awkwardness in it. So there were so many different emotions watching it. It was just fantastic. I don't want to spoil it for you by saying too much on here. I'm going to leave the trailer in the description bar for you. For the brows and the eye makeup, I'm using the Urban Decay Naked Basics palette, and I'm using the shade Naked 2 to fill in my brows, and then I'm just using my MAC Shape and Shade Brow Tint to flick through some additional hairs. Going back to the palette, I'm taking these two shades and I'm mixing them together to create a bit of a bone colour eyeshadow to place over the mobile lid, and I'm taking that up to the socket line, and this is helping us to emphasise the shape of our eyelid, which in the end will end up looking very almond shaped. The 1960s was all about making the most of your actual eye. They always went in with a lighter kohl pencil along the waterline to make the actual eyeball look bigger. I'm using more of a flesh tone because it's a bit more natural. I'm using a matte black eyeliner by Inglot, and I'm mixing that with a Duraline to make it a little bit more fluid, and it also means it won't go anywhere. And I'm going to replicate Jennifer Stirling's eyeliner in the movie, which was a winged out look, which is why it's definitely more Brigitte Bardot than Twiggy. Twiggy's eyeliner came down, which made the eye look quite sad, whereas this winged liner was fuller to the outer edge and sat quite high, so it gave a lifted look to the eye. My eyelids are slightly different shaped, one is a lot larger than the other, so I always do my liquid eyeliner when I'm looking directly into a mirror in front of me. I will then shape them so they are identical when I'm looking straight ahead, because that's how most people will see my eyes, but you will see them looking slightly different at this angle because obviously I've zoomed in to film it for you. So my top tip when you are creating an eyeliner with a wing is to look directly in front of you into a mirror and do it super slow when you are replicating the wing, and try to get it at the right angle so that they match when your eyes are open. Again, the reason I've used a mixing medium with this black gel liner is because it does make it more fluid, which makes it easier to work with. And my preference for the application brush is actually an art brush rather than using a tool that's been specifically designed to apply eyeliner. This side is the eye that is slightly larger, so I've got a bit more space with it in terms of I can just wing it out and it goes out beautifully, whereas the other eye needs to be slightly thicker and it has to have a slight dip in it so that when my eyes are looking straight, they curve around the shape of my eyeballs almost identically. So when I look down, you can see there's a slight dip on the left eye, but that works for me when I'm looking straight up. I'm going back into the shade Naked 2. I'm using a small detailer brush to start working this from the outer corner of the wing into the socket line, which you can instantly see makes the mobile lid look more almond shaped. Now, if you don't have the same palette as me, you can use a cool tone grey, you can use black when you really tap off all the excess product, because black was used. But obviously, because the character is based on a real life character as opposed to a fashion icon, this was a lot more subtle. During the scenes of Jennifer when she was at a dinner party or she was going out, this shadow was a lot more prominent, it was a lot darker. However, the scene I decided to recreate was set in the daytime, it was a lot more of a relaxed environment, and this was a lot softer. So I'm tapping all the excess product off of the brush, and then wherever you place that brush first off is going to be the darkest part. For me, I like to place that at the very outer corner of the eye and then use what's left on the bristles to pull that through the socket. Once you've laid down that initial layer, go with a clean blending brush to really buff this out. Then you can go back in and start to redefine it. Doing the buffing and then the relayering is what's going to give you a nice gradient. Try not to buff it out too far because you want to keep this really where you first place it. You just want to soften it. Then I'm dipping my bristles into a very tiny amount of the shade Crave, which is the darkest colour in that palette. And again, starting on the outer edge and pulling that through the socket, we're only taking that halfway up and then using the clean blending brush to pull that colour through the rest of the socket. Taking a pointed eyeliner brush, I've dipped that into a small amount of Crave with a little bit of black eyeshadow, which is matte. I tapped off all the excess product and I'm running that really close to the root of the eyelashes. When there were close-up shots of Jennifer's face, you could see that she had quite a dark lash line at the lower lid, but it wasn't on the actual waterline. It was really smudged between those lower eyelashes, so it looked like eyeliner, but it didn't close up the eye. So the eyelashes that we used were quite wispy and they were made to look like she was wearing false eyelashes. It was obviously intentionally done to add to that glamour and the fact that women wouldn't be seen without makeup. Whenever there were any bath shots of her, she had no makeup on at all. However, when she was in bed next to her husband, she didn't have anything on her actual face, but she did have her eyeliner and lashes on. You may or may not have noticed that the actual application of these eyelashes is slightly higher on the outer edge. So I'm not placing the outer corner on the lash line, I'm actually placing it about 2mm higher. So it sits on the actual eyeliner itself rather than my natural lashes. And the reason for this is because it gives a much more lifted look to the eyes. We've taken time to lift the outer corner using the liquid eyeliner. We now don't want our eyes to look droopy because of the false eyelashes. Then I'm going in with some mascara at the base. The top lashes didn't look like they were coated in mascara, it just looked very wispy from the eyelashes. However, the 60s did place a lot of emphasis on those lower eyelashes. As you know, Twiggy famously painted them on like little twigs. But again, because this is more Brigitte Bardot inspired, we are going with a layer of mascara and we're going to make it quite obvious. So that completes the eye makeup. As you can see, it is beautifully understated, which is exactly how it was in the movie. It was so well done, it was extremely glamorous but understated. Now there wasn't an awful lot of contour, as I said the skin was pretty bare. However, you could definitely see there was something to sculpt the cheeks, so I'm going in with my Endless Summer Bronzer by Bare Minerals in the shade Faux Tan because it is slightly cooler, and I'm just going to add this along the cheekbone. During the scenes of Shailene in the evenings, you could see her cheeks definitely had more intensity to them. And when it came to blush, she went for more of a pinky tone. So I'm going to take this gorgeous blush by Lisa Eldridge. This is the Enlivening Blush in the shade Pink Poetry. I've worked that onto the back of my hand, so it's really only a wash of colour on the cheeks. Sometimes it looked like it was just on her apples, and then sometimes it looked like it was pulled back. So I'm just going to go over the entire area because it is very soft. These just give a natural finish to the skin, which is perfect. I'm taking the shade Pas de Deux by Cosmetics a la Carte. This is the perfect muted blushed peach and it's in a matte finish, which again is super 60s. And it looks really similar to the lipstick that Jennifer Stirling is wearing in the scene that I've decided to copy. I have a freckle in the same area as Shailene Woodley. Hers is a little bit more prominent than mine, so I'm going to go in with a brown liquid liner to make it more obvious. Moving on to the hair section of this tutorial, it is so simple. I'm taking my Babyliss Pro Ceramic Dialer Heat in the 32mm, and you want to do this as a side parting, which I wear anyway, so I'm just keeping it in the side parting. And then simply taking large sections and then curling them towards my face. I have mine set on heat number 21. If you have fine hair, you might want to bring that heat down a bit, and you might want to up the heat if your hair is naturally quite coarse. I tend to leave it on for around 7 seconds and then I just leave them down to cool, and I've done them in large sections. It's nothing technical. Once they've cooled, I'm taking the Moroccan Oil Luminous Hairspray, which is a medium hold, and I'm spraying that onto my brush before brushing it through my hair. Jennifer Stirling in this particular scene, she kind of has soft brushed out curls and then she has a scarf in her hair. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to comb them through. It almost gives a bit of a Hollywood vibe feel to the hair, especially with my length. So it's the most simple, quick way to achieve really glamorous hair. Here I'm just going to separate my fringe and a small bit of hair in front of my ears and just part the hair at the back out of the way so I can put the scarf over the top of my head. And then I'm also going to take it underneath my hair and I'm going to tie it around one side. I got this scarf in Primark the other day as a set of 2 and it almost looks identical to the one that Shailene is wearing as Jennifer Stirling in this particular scene. Once it's tied up, I'm just going to go over my hair with a little bit more hairspray just to redefine it. It doesn't have to be too particular, it just has to have a little bit of a soft wave. And that completes my 1960s inspired hair and makeup. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and don't forget to check out The Last Letter from Your Lover in cinemas the 6th of August. All the products I've used will be listed and linked in the description bar, as will the trailer to the movie. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new to my channel, and I will see you next week. Bye!